Good evening. This is Sports Paws. I'm Mike Oletta. In the next half hour, a wrap-up of Quinnipiac Athletics' recent games. We'll look ahead to what awaits each spring team and in-depth analysis from our analysts Mark Spillane and John Alba. Also, softball ace pitcher Heather Schwartzberg with us in studio to discuss her success and growth in the sport. And the #1 doubles team of women's tennis, Rachel Cantor and Sarah Vibrock, to discuss their season thus far. Finally, we will examine the early success of a recent Quinnipiac alumnus. All this tonight on Sports Paws. We start tonight's program, however, by reflecting on the life of an iconic journalist. Mike Wallace will be remembered for his persistence and ambush style of interviewing for 60 minutes. He was an innovator and pioneer of investigative journalism. Wallace's most intriguing interview subjects ranged from the glorified Malcolm X to the controversial Iranian president Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. His determination led to great news, but more importantly, the truth. The world lost a great man yesterday. Mike Wallace was 93 years old. To the diamond we go. They had one, then they had two, and then three. And well, they still have three. The baseball team currently sits on a 12-game losing streak after losing to UConn today. Bobcats were swept last week in a 4-game series at Monmouth and were outscored 28-9. Head coach Dan Gooley is still looking for his 500th career victory. With that said, Gooley is still the winningest coach in Quinnipiac Athletics history. Let's take a look at the week ahead for the baseball team and their chances of changing tides this season.
In the shadow of a team that is fighting to finish with double-digit wins this season, the bigger story has become the value of ace pitcher Derek Lamacchia and whether or not this season will hurt his stock for the Major League Baseball draft. With just a few weeks left in the season, is it too late for Skip Gooley and the Bobcats baseball team to turn things around?
And we welcome in our analysts, Mark Spillane and John Alba. Gentlemen, what's going on with the baseball team? John, you first.
Well, not a whole lot is going right now for this Bobcats squad. They now drop to 3-25 after another rough loss today to UConn. They lost 12-7. This team, it's the pitching. Today they had Ryan Walsh start for the first time all season long, and while he did pitch strong for a first start, they just couldn't get it going. The relief pitching, George Dumar, nothing went right for this team. Pitching, hitting, you name it. There's not a whole lot going right.
Mark?
Well, John, you explained the records and how they're really struggling, and I think a lot of the problems that they're having are they can't really string together hits. They get 1 or 2 hits, they can't get another one to knock in the next one, to knock in the next run. So that's the problem that they're having, along with fielding as well. The fielding is a big problem for them right now. They've got almost 2/3 of their errors coming from their their shortstop and their third baseman, Zach Palmer and Scott Donahue. They have to be able to help out their pitchers by fielding the ball properly.
Now, gentlemen, what young player has exceeded expectation to this point? Mark first.
I'm going to go with Vin Galletti. I think he's doing a really nice job this year as a freshman. He came in as a guy who hit over 560 last year in high school. He's leading the team in RBIs right now. He's playing first base, DH, and he's doing a nice job as a freshman.
You know, I like your points about Galletti, and I think he is playing exceptionally. Today, Scott Donahue became a man on that Quinnipiac squad. Donahue almost hit for the cycle today, and his defense was superb. I got a chance to talk with Coach Gooley, and he even said how impressed he was with Scott's performance today and thinks that going forward, this kid has a big chance to make a difference for that team.
Now, gentlemen, talking about adjustments, obviously this team, 3 wins, 24 losses, 25 losses now. They need to make adjustments. John, what are some adjustments they can make?
You know, there needs to be smarter management of the bullpen. And right now, this Bobcats squad has found ways to keep it close. Today, it was 5-4 at one point against a Big East squad, and then the bullpen just fell apart. There needs to be more security there in that bullpen. A pitcher needs to be able to come in and say, hey, we're going to finish things off, and that starts with coaching.
Mark?
Well, I think along with all the points that you made, John, they also have to do the little things properly. They have to field the balls when they're coming to them. They have to make good throws, get down, sacrifice bunts, steal some bases, things like that, because they're not a big power hitting team. They've got to play a little small ball, and they've got to do it right.
And perhaps another remake of the Major League series, movie series. We'll see how it ends up. To the other diamond we go. Softball is having a successful season. They currently sit at 18-11 overall, 6-4 in the conference. The team played in 5 games over the last week, posting a 3-2 record. Heather Schwartzberg threw 18 innings in 4 of those games for the Bobcats, only giving up 4 earned runs. Freshman Nikki Barber led the team throughout the week with 7 hits. Let's take a look at the week ahead for the softball team.
Led by ace pitcher Heather Schwartzberg, the softball team is having a season to remember. On Wednesday, the Bobcats host the Connecticut Huskies in what will be a true test to the team's legitimacy. The Bobcats have filled the void that was left with the injury of last year's standout player Jordan Paolucci and look to continue their dominance to contend for a Northeast Conference title.
All right, guys, softball has had a very impressive year thus far. Talk about the team's hitting success without power hitter Jordan Paolucci.
Well, it all comes down to the guys who are stepping up. We saw it with the back-to-back home runs. Alex Alba, Christy Cabrera. These are the players who are going to have to step up for the squad. Alba's a hitting machine this season, and honestly, it's all about consistency. You mentioned Nikki Barba. Her as well. They're going to rely on those core four, if you will, and to carry them throughout.
Mark.
Well, you mentioned the hitting, John. It also goes along with the pitching as well. Of course, Heather Schwartzberg has done a great job this year being the ace of that staff, but Katie Alfieri is pitching well. And Christy Cabrera struggled a little bit, but she's also going to be big down the stretch for them out there in the circle. So I think it's going to be a lot of pitching that's going to have to overcome the lack of runs that they're going to have with Paolucci out.
So, guys, 18 games left. What are your expectations for the team for the rest of the season? Mark, you first.
Well, with 18 games left, I think they can win a majority of those, possibly 10 or 12, even more than that, maybe 14 if they really play up to their abilities. We've seen how they can play. They are better than most of the teams that they do play, especially with their pitching, and a lot of the hitters contributing, as you mentioned, John. So I think this team's going to have a nice run into the NEC playoffs and then a nice run through the NEC playoffs.
You know, 18 games left on the season. It comes down to this. You have to win series. You know, you could win one, lose one, win one, lose one. That only breaks up momentum. You have to secure each and every series that comes your way, especially when you're talking about conference play, because that's what makes a difference in the end. If you don't have success in the conference, you can't have a successful season no matter what your overall record.
There you go, the analysis. It's time to take a break. When we come back, Mark sits down with softball senior Heather Schwartzberg in studio to break down her career as a Bobcat and the state of the team this year as they look to make a run at the Northeast Conference title. This is Sports Paws.
Welcome back into Sports Paws. I'm Mark Spillane, and joining us here on the show is softball senior Heather Schwartzberg, who holds the single-season Northeast Conference record for strikeouts with 296. Heather, thanks for joining us. First, let's talk a little bit about how you wound up here at Quinnipiac. How did you come all the way here from all the way out in Mission Viejo, California?
Actually, Quinnipiac found me in the sense that I was at a recruiting tournament in Colorado over the summer, my junior year, and one of the assistant coaches came up to me and they started talking to me, and he told me about Quinnipiac and said that they were interested in looking at me, and then I came on an official visit my senior year, and I just fell in love with the school. So actually Quinnipiac actually found me. Well, ever since you've been here, you've made an impact. As a freshman, you won the NEC Rookie of the Year award, and then of course last year you broke the single season strikeouts record for the conference. So talk about how you have evolved as a player over your 4 years here. Over the past 4 years, I've definitely evolved in a number of areas. I have gotten a lot smarter in understanding the batter's approach to what their jobs are in different situations, and in relation to that, I know what I need to throw in order to put them off their game. So if they want to hit a ball in a certain area to move their runners, then I know that I have to pitch it in a different spot in order to provide outs for our team. So I've definitely grown in the aspect of like knowing the game and knowing what pitches to throw in different situations. I've also learned a lot about where to place the ball. You don't want to just throw it on the outside or the inside. There's like the outside, the corner, or you want it a little bit more off depending on the situation. And then our defense also moves and shifts to affect like where you're throwing the ball to make outs and the stuff on the defense. So I've definitely learned a lot in the aspect of like what to throw in different situations, and I think I've improved a lot over the years majorly in that area. Well, as a senior this year, how much responsibility did you feel that you put upon yourself coming into this season to really step up and be a leader for this team? I think it has a lot of pressure and responsibility because every year I seem to be doing better and better with all of my different areas and pitching stats, and so I think that puts a little bit more pressure on being one of the leaders and just taking it up a notch and trying to get that much better each year. Well, we've talked about the strikeout record with 296. That's just 4 away from 300. You talked about evolving as a pitcher. Coming into this year, did you maybe think about or set that as a personal goal for yourself to try to get to 300 strikeouts? It's definitely a goal. Last year, the Chronicle sat down with me and they asked me if I could reach 300. And I had originally thought yeah, maybe. And our captain last year, Joel Jacobson, said, Heather, no, say that you'll hit 300. And if it wasn't for the NEC tournament being canceled because of the rain, I know I would have hit the 300 because I had just gone in the championship game and I only needed 4 more. So I knew I would have gotten it if that didn't happen. And this year, it would be nice to get 300, but I have a little bit smaller of a goal of 243 because that would give me a career count of 1,000 strikeouts. So if I can meet that goal, then that would be awesome, and then I'd move to 300, but I have a little bit lesser goal first.
Well, 1,000 career would be absolutely remarkable as well. When you're ahead of a hitter, do you have a favorite pitch that you like to throw to try to get them out with the strikeout?
All of my pitches are pretty much my favorite because I know how to move the ball in order to throw the batter off. So when I'm ahead, I don't necessarily throw my favorite pitch. I throw what the count asks of me to throw because my favorite pitch would probably be my screwball or my curve, but I'll usually use those to get ahead of the batter with foul balls or strikes looking. But then if you use those already, once you're ahead, you might not necessarily want to use them right away to see what they could do with the other pitches. So it's not necessarily what would be my favorite pitch when I'm ahead, but I definitely know which pitches I need to throw when I'm ahead in order to set my team up for success.
Well, what do you enjoy more? Do you enjoy freezing a batter and getting them looking, or do you like when you generate a swing and a miss to get the strikeout?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I definitely like freezing them when they're looking, but I think freezing them on a swinging and missing is better because then I know that the ball moved out of the zone and I made the ball spin in the direction that I want it to spin because we work a lot on missing in the direction of the pitch. So if I throw a certain pitch and it's a little off, that meant that it was good enough for them to swing because it looked good, but it spun and it moved so that they swung and missed. So I'd say swinging and missing is better than maybe freezing them.
Well, aside from the dominant strikeout totals, you've also been very versatile this year. You've had 13 starts, but you've also appeared in 5 other games in relief. So how do you go about preparing to make sure you're always ready for different roles each and every game?
When I'm warming up, I usually know the role. Like if I'm starting the game, then I know that I'm the starter for that game and I have to go out in the first inning with strong pitches and knowing the scouting report versus if I'm in relief for the game and planning on closing, then I take into consideration like what's happened previously in the game, what I talk to the pitchers that have pitched and like what their approaches were to the batters. And then I take that into consideration and I focus on making balls hit certain spots when I'm warming up. And I know that when I go in as a relief, I actually act like I'm starting the game and nothing has happened prior to that because the first few innings of the game are the most crucial innings because you don't want the other team to score and you don't want to that's the first time they're seeing you. So even coming in as a closer, I act like it's the first time that I'm out there at the beginning of the game.
Well, everybody talks about how baseball and softball are very ritualistic games. Are there any special rituals or anything that you do before or during games that help you stay focused or anything like that?
I have more routines that I guess you consider rituals because if I don't do them, it doesn't throw me off, but it just doesn't seem right. My pregame is definitely a ritual that I do. I throw X amount of pitches for every single pitch, and I don't deviate from it. I usually do blocks with my catcher, and we talk about the scouting report. So those are the things that I usually do that are structured, and I do a certain amount every single time that I'm starting, or even in my warm-up if I'm closing a game. I'll still go through the pregame warm-up, and I'll throw the certain amount of pitches for each pitch, and then I'll do a certain mix, and all these things incorporate me like getting ready for the game no matter when I'm going in.
Well, whatever you're doing, it's working so far, so keep that up. Thank you for your time, and good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you.
After this commercial break, John will be joined, and he will sit down with Rachel Cantor and Sarah Vibrock to talk tennis. This is Sports Paws.
Welcome back to Sports Paws. I'm here with Rachel Cantor and Sarah Vibrock, the #1 doubles team for women's tennis. And, you know, girls, first off, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And, you know, you guys are 10-2 overall in the season together. Why don't you talk a little bit about the camaraderie that you guys share together?
Well, Rachel and I actually played together freshman year as a doubles team at 2 doubles, and we actually didn't do too well. We were kind of inexperienced freshmen. And this year when we got the opportunity to play together, we were really pumped about it because we knew that we could really take a leadership role in the one position. And we just complement each other really well. And her strengths are my weaknesses and my strengths are her weaknesses. So.
I play the forehand side, she plays the backhand side, and obviously my forehand is my strength and her backhand is her strength. And the way we play together, the way we communicate together, it's just a great team. And I think the 2 and 3 doubles team looks up to us, you know, for the win and just as a leader.
Do you feel like you've made any adjustments from that freshman season, either of you?
I think we've grown as people. We've become more mature on the court. We're able to laugh on the court, have a fun time, but still be very competitive and serious at the same time.
Well, you talk about laughing on the court and whatnot. And I've seen this tennis team play, and it seems like there's a lot of fun going on with the team. Why don't you talk about the chemistry going on this squad?
I think we get serious when we need to be, but most importantly, we have a really good time, because it's not good to be too serious on the court, especially with tennis, because it's such a mental game. So I know for Rachel and I, we crack jokes on the court and make sure that we're having fun and remind ourselves that we are out there to have fun and not just playing so seriously.
Now, you came into the season with a lot of expectations, thus far 6-9 overall. What do you feel has gone wrong to this point, and how do you think you can go about correcting that?
I feel as though our team has a ton of heart, determination, will, but we're a young team. We're 2 juniors, 2 captains, and from there we have 1 sophomore and 5 freshmen. So we have a very young team, and I feel as though it's the lack of experience that we have overall that kind of affects, our wins. I think teams like Bryant, we could have beat them, we should have beat them, but it's the experience, like I said, and I feel like that truly has affected us this season.
Have you found any difficulties stepping up as a captain, as a junior, especially when you have so many freshmen? And Sarah, I'll direct this at you. Do you find this to be difficult at all?
It's a little difficult because you want to be their friends, but at the same time you want them to respect you and kind of see you as a leader and not just a friend. So that balance of being their friend and also being able to tell people what to do is kind of a hard balance to find, but I think that we're getting a little bit more comfortable with that at the end of our season, which is a good time to do that. So,
I would imagine one of the driving forces of this squad is head coach Mike Quitko. Why don't, you guys refer to him as Q, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Why don't you talk a little bit about Q and his coaching tactics and what he does for your squad?
He's more of a father figure to us. He's a very serious guy when he needs to be. He yells at us if he needs to, but for the most part, I think we all have a very special relationship with Q, and it makes it more enjoyable to play for him and under him than it is to play for somebody who can't laugh with you, can't joke with you. And, he's a great person, a great guy, and he's the reason I came to Quinnipiac to play.
And let's go a little individually here quickly. For both of you, how did you find your way to Quinnipiac in the first place?
I have a funny story for you, so my doubles partner will take it over and tell you.
Rachel and I we both knew each other in high school. We were in the same tennis section growing up, but we didn't really know each other, and we found ourselves at a national tournament in Oklahoma together where we kind of were talking about where we wanted to go to college. We were juniors, and at the time both of us were in contact with Q, but neither of us wanted to come to Quinnipiac. I thought it was too close to home, and Rachel
I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Rachel was looking for a little bit of a bigger school, so we both said we weren't going here, and about a year later, 6 months later, Rachel called me and said she committed, because after both of our official visits and meeting with the coach and the team members, we were just completely sold.
You talk about a story like that. 2 other players on your squad had a similar story, Michelle Dawson and Jackie Rayner. They also met at a showcase, and they're also one of your better double squads of the team, 21-7 for them. What's it like having another team that can go alongside you in combat well?
It's really nice to have a 2 doubles team that is so strong under us, especially as freshmen, because by the time they get to be seniors, they're going to be an amazing doubles team. So it's just nice to know that in case Rachel and I can't pull it out for the team that one day, that they're definitely under us looking for the win.
We also grew up with them in juniors playing we played in Eastern section together, and I was very good friends with Jacqueline growing up. I've been at her house millions of times with her and her sister, Kelsey. So we have, a lot of experience together as just friends and playing together. So I think it helps that we're all from the same area. We aren't complete strangers, and it's been a fun ride.
Well, girls, thank you so much for joining us on Sports Paws. And when we come back from the commercials, we'll break down the men's and women's lacrosse team. So don't go anywhere. This is Sports Paws.
You're watching Sports Paws on a clear Monday night in Hamden, Connecticut. Shortly, we will be showing you a great story on a QU alumnus. But right now, we'll jump to the turf field. Men's lacrosse started the season 0-6. The Bobcats came into the season with a slew of young players, but early season experiences has helped the team overcome adversity. On Saturday, the team defeated the Wagner Seahawks 15-5. Sophomore Dylan Webster led the team with 4 goals, and junior Jay Binkowski tallied a hat trick. With the victory, the Bobcats are now on a 3-game winning streak and are 2-0 in conference. Time to look at the upcoming week for the Bobcats men's lacrosse team.
Men's lacrosse is full of confidence after a victory over last year's NEC champion, Mount St. Mary's. The Bobcats are 2-0 in conference with just 3 conference games remaining on their schedule. Bryant, Robert Morris, and Sacred Heart. Sophomore Dylan Webster and junior Basil Castaris lead a Bobcat attack that other teams have struggled to contain.
Joined again by Mark Spillane and John Elba. Guys, let's first talk about the fantastic play of freshman goalie Dylan Torrey. John?
87 saves on the season for Torrey, and really, you have to be able to place confidence in such a young kid like him. And for him to actually come through in the clutch, and especially as you mentioned, a 3-game winning streak, that's huge. It's a big uplifter for Coach Feketa and the rest of those 23 freshmen.
And Mark?
Well, he's young, but he's talented, and he's getting better as the season goes on because he's getting more confident. As this team wins games, he gets better. So the more they win, the better he's going to get, because right now I think it's all about the mindset with him.
Now, guys, the team, they've got 3 road games in their Final Four, just 4 games left. Do you think this is going to play a factor for them down the road?
Absolutely. I do think it will play a factor. They're playing some of the better teams in the Northeast Conference the rest of the way. They're a young team, not that much experience. We've talked about that on this show, and it's been mentioned all around campus, so I think that it will play a factor. It's going to be tough for them to keep up the strong play of late.
You got a tough game against Harvard coming up, and you have to be able to combat on the road. If they could split the Final Four games 2-2, I think that would be considered a success. And believe me, this is a young team that's hungry for wins, especially having come so close last season. They're looking to do it again.
There you have it, men's lacrosse. Now, women's lacrosse opened the season as a favorite in the NEC, and they continue to show why. The Bobcats are 2-0 over the past week, with victories coming against St. Francis of Pennsylvania and Robert Morris. The Bobcats are now 6-0 in the conference, with 4 games remaining on their schedule. Time to take a look at what the women's lacrosse team is doing so far and what they need to look forward to.
Lacrosse team looks to stay undefeated in conference as they travel to Sacred Heart and host Fairfield later this week. Marissa Carolillo is now the all-time leader in goals at Quinnipiac, and junior Sarah Allen leads the nation in assists. With very few holes to patch up, this team may be playing well past the regular season.
So, guys, we know what they have ahead of them, so let's talk about what it will take for this team to go undefeated in conference play. John?
Well, they got games against Sacred Heart, Bryant, among several others, and Sacred Heart is right behind them as Bobcats lead 6-0 in the conference. Sacred Heart being right behind them, you got to win those contests. If you beat the middle of the pack as well, this team should have no problem from here on out in the NEC.
Well, as John said, they have to win their conference games, but they also need a little more help to help out Marissa Carolillo and Sarah Allen. Those two are the 1-2 punch that do most of the scoring for this team. Allen, of course, usually sets up Carolillo for the goals, but they need some help with other players, because if they had just those two clicking on all cylinders, that's not going to be enough. They need help from the rest of the roster.
Next question, how far can you see them going come postseason time? Mark, you go first.
I think they can win the whole thing. They did it last year, and they did it in dominating fashion, so I think that they can do it again. There's no reason why they can't. 6 of the top 7 scorers were on last year's squad, so if they're all back this year, they've done it before. There's no reason why they can't win the whole thing just like last year.
A player like Sarah Allen is hungry, and all it takes is hunger, and if you got a big appetite, there's no reason that this team can't find that same success. So you were talking about, Mark, I have big expectations for this Bobcat squad.
So there you have it, the analysis from our 2 analysts. And now it's feature time. Our feature tonight is about a Quinnipiac alumnus who has a passion for soccer, and just recently he was offered a job he just couldn't turn down. Brian Farrell has the story.
Soccer has never been America's favorite sport, so maybe that's why Connecticut's newest sports team is located in this Hamden Industrial Park. Despite the location, the Premier Development League CFC Azul is attracting participants from all around the world.
I played when I was young, obviously in Germany I played, and then I moved over here and I didn't enjoy it quite as much, so I stopped playing for a while.
Now the 22-year-old is ready to return, that is, off the field. 6 months after graduating from nearby Quinnipiac University, Robin Schubert is one of the youngest general managers in all of sports.
Well, when we first started, Robin was kind of just in the office, kind of just doing general, helping us out. we really didn't think it was going to get as big as it's getting.
The two first met while Robin was still at Quinnipiac, working as team manager behind the shadow of women's soccer coach Dave Clark.
I think he's very good. There's nothing that I've ever asked him that he doesn't get done. I mean, whether it's 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m., whenever it needs to get done, it's done.
He's willing to do anything. So one minute he's dealing with insurance, next minute he's dealing with player agents, next minute he's dealing with the league, and he's dealing with our coaches, our managers. He's basically just a hands-on guy that he can adapt to anything.
CFC ownership wasted no time adjusting Robin to his new job.
After about a week, we took him down to Florida. We had a convention there, a general managers meeting, and we just threw him into the wolves there, and he did fine. Straight away, I knew fine well he was fine with this.
Starting up a brand new developmental soccer team has its challenges, but Robin and the rest of the administration are looking to keep their goals simple.
Just to kind of develop the team, go year by year. Obviously, you're going to learn different things every year, spend maybe 2 or 3 years in this division, and then see what happens after that.
The Azul's inaugural season is set to kick off May 5th.
That will do it for tonight's program. Tune in next week for more highlights and analysis on every Bobcats squad. If you missed part of the show, find us on YouTube by searching Q30 Sports Paws. Visit the official website of Q30 at www.q30.org and follow the official Twitter of Q30 at Q30 Television. A special thanks to the Quinnipiac Sports Information Department and to the student athletes who appeared on tonight's show. For all of the crew here on Sports Paws, I'm Mike Auletta. Good night.